place, breaking norms, setting trends. Wait all the day, uncontained, making space, cultivating grace. Yeah. Filling space, converging minds on the same page. Every day, every way. Word of the day. Word of the day. Conversation.
To awaken new possibilities. Do you believe that tonight? This is why inspiration is so important. It opens us up to new possibilities. It pushes us beyond those spaces where we find comfortability, but it allows us to open up our senses to see something new, something greater. Yeah, possibilities. This is why you want to be around folk who inspire you. You know, you don't want to be around folk who constantly who are tearing you down, but you want to be around folk who have the capacity to inspire, to lift you up, to help you to see yourself.
Be alright, be alright. Life is strange, full of pain. Joy and happiness is all the same. But you have to reclaim. Become your best self. Stop tripping off what people say. Don't you know it's gonna be a brighter day, brighter day, brighter day, brighter day. Lift your hands. Do it, y'all. Come on, better, 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 better. Better days are coming. Better days are coming. Better, 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 better.
Man, what is up, everybody? What is up? Y'all know what it is. It's Wade's Word of the Day. Wade's Word of the Day. So grateful and thankful to be hanging out with each and every one of you on this evening. Anna Pugh, good to see you tonight. Audrey Barnes, Lee, Duchess Scott, and others. Thank you for coming into the space. Make sure that you're tagging and texting and telling somebody. Make sure that you're hitting those hearts and those likes and all of that stuff. Matter of fact, I want you to take the first 30 seconds of this broadcast and just go crazy on those hearts and those likes. That's very important. That's very important because you stir up the algorithm. You know, you cause it to go out to other folk who might want to come in. But it starts with you. So go ahead. I need you to go ahead, like this post, the physical post, and then go ahead and hit those hearts and those likes. Go ahead. Do that real quick. For your boy, I appreciate it. I really do. I really do. I appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that. Hit that real quick. Mon Dukes, I see that you've made your way into the room as well. And others, man. So grateful and thankful to be hanging out with all of you. Yes, it is Sister Duchess' birthday on today. It is her official day. You know what I mean? October 31st. Yeah, we call that Duchess Day. You know, some folk call it Halloween and all that stuff. Now, we call this Duchess Day, and so we are thankful and grateful for her. Why don't y'all show her some love tonight? Just simply tell her happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Y'all can sing along right from where you are, on your couch, living room, whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Yeah. It's Duchess' birthday. So y'all shout her out. Show her some love. Yeah. And if you want to show me some love, hit that stars button. You feel what I'm saying? But I know, Duchess, it's your birthday. It's your birthday, and we hope that you have celebrated, that you have enjoyed, that, the folk that you love have connected with you and reached out to you and celebrated you. Yeah, yeah. So we're thankful for you on this day, Yeah, so show her some love real quick. Man, what do I want to talk about on Monday night? First of all, y'all know I love Mondays because Mondays for me represent fresh starts. Some people frown about Monday because they mad about what happened, coming off of the weekend. But Monday for me, man, I rejoice on Mondays because, hey, I can put the things from the past behind me. That which is behind me is behind me. And Monday represents fresh start, new chance, new opportunities. New ways for me to discover, to go after it. And I hope that you would change your mindset around that as well. Monday is not just a work day, but Monday reminds us that what is behind us is behind us. Yeah, and we now get a fresh start and a fresh chance. To celebrate not only what you're doing, but celebrate one another. That's why in this space, we believe it to be a healing space. So we don't tear down, we lift up, we encourage, we speak to those things that speak to us. All of those wonderful things, So why don't you give yourself some self-love tonight? Yeah, hug yourself and tell yourself you're going to be all right. You're going to make it. Yeah, that all things are in fact working together for your good. Yeah, they're working together for your good. So encourage yourself. Just go ahead and take 30 seconds right now, right where you are in the living room, on your couch. Point to yourself and say, I'm good. I'm going to be all right. Yeah, I'm going to be all right. Yeah, come on, say it one more time. Y'all ain't get it. Come on, say it one more time. Point to yourself. Say, I'm going to be all right. Yeah, I'm going to be all right because we all in this space together. Yeah, and you're going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And so sometimes you just got to learn how to wasabi some stuff. You know what I mean? Just breathe it in and breathe it out. Yeah, can we get an agreement on tonight? Everybody just take your finger tonight and type that in the comment section and just let's encourage one another tonight. Say, I'm going to be all right. Yeah, I'm going to be all right. Go ahead. Yeah, let's encourage one another. Just hit that comment real quick and say, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. And I believe that you're going to be all right. I hope that you believe for me that I'm going to be all right. So I want to piggyback off of kind of what I talked about yesterday tonight because I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. You know what I mean? I wanted to just take a few moments for this audience and kind of talk about that again. Yesterday we talked about how life is too short. But there were three things that I kind of want to lift up a little bit more tonight. Yeah, thank you so much, Leona Winstead. Yeah, we're going to be all right. And so I talked about how life is too short. And, we kind of dealt with that and, broke that all down. But out of that conversation, I thought about three things that I mentioned, but I didn't really kind of talk about them or didn't give them as much time as I think that they require. And so this is a good space to kind of talk about that, right? This is a good space to talk about that. And one of the things that I lift up, I said something like this. I said, life is too short to be bitter over things that you cannot change. Life is too short to want to go back to what was. And life is too short to be always doing the same thing. Let me say that again for the slow folk in the back of the room. Life is too short to be bitter over things that you cannot change. Life is too short to want to go back to what was, and life is too short to always be doing the same thing. So let's talk about that tonight. First of all, what's your thoughts on that? I just gave you 3 things. Drop it in the comments section. Right. Life is too short to be bitter over things that you can't change. How you feel about that? Life is too short to want to go back to what was. And life is too short to always do the same thing. So I'm going to tackle all of those things in reverse order, if you don't mind tonight. The first thing I want to tackle is this point about life is too short to always be trying to do the same thing. To get wrapped up in mundane. When I came up, um, most of our families, at least where I'm from, they were working in some sort of factory. As I came into the world, it was the height of the GM revolution. Mr. Ford, he had figured out a way how he could pay people a little bit more in order to help them to build his automobile. And so what they did, in order to make this all happen, he put them all on an assembly line. Now, I don't know if you understand anything about assembly line. It's structured in such a way, really, where you are, in fact, doing the same thing every day. So he promised, hey, if you give me these 8 hours of your work life, of your time, I will give you this amount of money, but understand you are going to be doing pretty much the same thing every day on the assembly line. Yeah, no. Here it is. You can't come up in there and try to operate in independence. You can't come up in there and try to be creative, because every day that you show up, you are going to do the same thing, as my mother and them used to call it, on that line. You was going to show up at the start. You was going to take your place, get 30 and maybe a couple 15s, but you are going to do the same thing every day. And that became the benchmark, if you will, of our economy, of our way of life. And it is out of this Ford model that we began to structure our school system. See, the school system was built, in fact, to prepare people to go to work in these assembly line kind of constructs. Those who make it all the way through, they would become the managers and the bosses. Those who made it through high school, they could come out of high school and still make a little bit of money working on the assembly line. But you were going to do the same thing every day. You're just going to pick up this part, and you was going to place this part here, and then you was going to wait for the next part so that you could pick up that part and put that part there. No, you couldn't move and go to another part and put that part on. No, you was going to do the same thing over and over again. And so when we look at our economy, when we look at our job systems, even as it relates to the factory, we have used that model over and over and over again. You get a little bit of money, yes, blesses your family, can help your family, but there is no ingenuity. It is, in fact, doing the same thing over and over again. And many of us have adapted our lives to this concept. We find it difficult to break out of certain patterns because life has taught us to do the same thing over and over again. So much so that if somebody comes along and says, hey, we can do it a different way, oftentimes folks say, no, I've been doing it like this all my life. It's kind of like the old Baptist member. I started this way and I'm going to finish this way. I remember many years ago, my brother was my brother was in ministry and everything like that, and he was being pushed into the Baptist church, and the old Baptist preacher came over, and he literally told all of us, Baptist is the way. I started this way, and I'm gonna finish this way. This kind of just not a willingness to understand that things change. And so too often in our lives, we have lived in this construct where it becomes difficult for us to change. Matter of fact, change becomes a bad word, but the reality is the only constant in our lives is change. Yeah, you can look around, you see the changing of the weather, the changing of the seasons, you remember you used to have, I used to have hair on my head, but now I no longer have any hair. I used to have, this was all dark, but now the grays are breaking through. The only consistent thing that happens in our lives is change. And many of us are so comfortable with doing the same things over and over. We eat the same meal every day. We take the same way every day. We never think to maybe I'll veer off and try another way. But life is too short to spend our lives just doing the same things. Even in our churches, it's like clockwork. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to come to church. It's going to be some prayer. There's going to be some praise and worship. Somebody going to preach. They're going to take up an offering. We're going to act like we love one another, and then we're going to go home. It's the same thing. It's kind of like soap operas. Keeping it one. See, can I keep it 100 in this space? It's kind of like the soap operas. You ever watched the soap operas before? You could be sitting down and watching them, and then you don't watch them for 2 weeks. You come back 2 weeks later, they're in the same place talking about the same thing. It's kind of like a Tyler Perry show. I don't care if it's sisters, if it's brothers, if it's cousins, whatever he calling it. The reality is if you watch them shows and you come back a week, 2 weeks later, they at the same point talking about the same thing. You know what I mean? Talking about the same thing because we have patterned our lives to be comfortable watching the same thing, doing the same thing. Matter of fact, when Canaan was talking to Ghost's son, he said, listen, the only reason that Ghost was able to handle Breeze was that Breeze went home, sat down and watched Jeopardy at the same time every day. Is anybody picking up what I'm putting down? But I'll stop by to tell you tonight, life is too short to just be doing the same thing every day. Here's another thing. I told you I was working my way back, right? Life is too short to be doing the same thing every day. And life is too short to want to go back to what was. Isn't it? Isn't it interesting that we love nostalgia? We spend all of our lives talking about back when I was, kids didn't act like this. Yes, they did. As if, and sometimes even, us as people of color, sometimes I trip because, we spend a whole lot of energy talking about what was great back was, but I know a whole lot of things back was that wasn't so great. But they shared as if it was like the greatest experiences, greatest things. No, some of them experiences wasn't so great. I remember when we used to walk in the snow 5 miles to get to school. Who wants to do that now? If you had to walk them 5 miles to get to school in this new norm, you wouldn't get to school. Are you understanding what I'm saying? We spend a whole lot of energy. Listen, we need to know our history. I'm not knocking that. We need to, if you don't know where you've been, you won't know where you're going. I get all of that. I understand all of that. But life is too short to be living it in the past. Yes, there were some great things in the past, but here's the reality. Those who came before us, they were called to deal with the folk that they had to deal with in their area, in their era, if you will, and deal with them with the tools that they had for their area, for their, for their construct. But here's the reality. Them tools won't work today. That's kind of like telling somebody who is operating with cell phones, man, try out this rotary phone. Who wants to do that? That's like telling somebody who has the Mercedes Benz with the drop top, come on, get in this first Ford Model T. Who wants to do that? Life is too short to be spending all of our energy focused on trying to go back to what was. This is the crisis of the pandemic. The crisis of the pandemic, God is trying to shift us and move us into a new way of thinking, a new way of understanding. And we're fighting that because we want to go back to what was. And can I argue that even in the last 20 years, it ain't been all that in a bag of chips? Black folk been struggling. Jobs have been ceasing. All of that we talking about, we trying to get back to. Churches struggling. Folk not getting along, crime at a high rate. But we longing to get back to what was. Life is too short to be giving our energy to that which has passed. This is why Paul says, I forget those things which are behind me. There's a reason he says that. I forget those things which are behind me, and I'm pressing forward to that which is in front of me. There's nothing wrong with saying, I want to go anywhere but back there. I want to go anywhere but back there. You understand what I'm saying? There are some things and situations and circumstances, man, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to the struggle. I don't want to go back there. I want to go anywhere but back there. That's right. I can't go back there, but I've got to move on. I've got to embrace the life that is before me, forgetting that which is behind me. But we spend a whole lot of energy focus on what was, Listen, the reality is the way that we used to be able to raise and, our kids in certain ways, man, you got to figure out, how do we deal with the generation that God has given us? And that's the disconnect. Listen, I was in a space and who was I was listening to E. Dewey Smith and man, I can't think of his name. Bryant, brother Pastor Bryant. And they were at Morehouse and they were talking about, and they were saying basically, they're in their 50s and because our leaders, civil rights leaders, refuse to step down, they're looking at them who are in their 50s as being young, the next generation, because they refuse to move on. And they're still trying to treat this generation as if we're still living in the 60s. Don't that sound like your church? We still up there trying to end now, trying to preach folk like we Dr. King. This generation this generation ain't even with any of that. They want to just simply be talked to. They want to learn and glean and gather and do something. They don't just want to come to church and shout. They don't, y'all. They don't. I'm sorry. They don't. But we spend all of our energy trying to go back to what was. You sure didn't preach, Doc. Still singing them kumbaya down in the slave yard songs and getting mad because these young people are developing new sounds to the gospel. We need to go back to the old landmarks. I want to go anywhere but back there. I'm sorry. I want to go anywhere but back there. You understand what I'm saying? Life is about swift transitions. The reality is, what worked for the past generation may not necessarily be conducive to this generation, and we must be willing to use the tools and the gifts that God has given us for this generation to reach this generation. And I'm sorry, but the tools of my father and my grandfather are not sufficient for this generation. Even if we think about our politics, folk are not just running, like my mom and all of them, man, they diehard Democrats, but folk ain't just running to be tied up with Democrats simply because they Democrats any longer. They just ain't trying to hear none of that. They ain't trying to hear. They ain't trying to hear that whole same thing, the boogeyman, the Republic. They ain't trying to hear that no more. And we have to understand that. I want to go where? Anywhere but back there. And then finally, here it is. I work my way back. Life is too short to be bitter over things you can't change. Life is too short to be bitter over things you can't change. You cannot build relationships with fake people. And life is too short to be bitter with folk who don't get you, who don't understand your energy and your vibrations, if you will. Life is too short to be bitter over things that happened 10, 15 years. Life is too short to be bitter over things that you cannot change. All you can do is pick yourself and press your way forward. This is why I often say, man, you need to stop regretting your regrets, because here's the reality. Let me say it like this. When we think about relationships, I'm going to just use this as an example. If, in fact, I hurt somebody in whatever capacity, and they feel the effect of that hurt and this, that, and the third, what begins to happen, even after I apologize, the person who gets hurt is trying to take me back to the time before the hurt. But here's the reality. I can never go back to that place and replace that moment. I can never go back to that place and replace that moment. That moment is sealed. Only thing that I can do is apologize and move forward. And so often what we do, we spend all of our energy trying to convince people that they ought to regret their regrets. But here's the reality. You can never press forward if you're always regretting your regrets. Life is too short to be bitter about things that you cannot change. If I in fact hurt you 10 years ago, I can never go back to that moment and get that moment back or do a course correction on that moment. Only thing that I can do is to try to do better in the future. I hope I'm helping somebody. I hope I'm helping somebody here today, because if you are in fact holding on to a moment in time from your past, that person can never get that back. But all you can do, because here's the thing, you're looking for, see, forgiveness is not really about them, it's about you. This is why you've got to learn how to forgive and keep moving. See, I go into spaces all the time. Matter of fact, if I'm being 100, I was in a space this weekend and I looked around, I saw all types of people from the past, and I wasn't even tripping. I was just like, but people sometimes are so bitter over things that will never, ever, that they can never, ever get that moment back. I'm sorry, you can't get it back. And so you should never be in a place where you're just simply regretting your regrets. You got to learn how to forgive not only the individuals, you got to learn how to forgive yourself, and you've got to learn how to keep it moving. Yeah, you got to learn how to keep it moving. This is why I'm never fearful. I'm never fearful to go into any space in terms of where there's been pain or hurt, whether it's me or others, because at the end of the day, I've got to forgive myself. I've got to learn how to forgive others, and I've got to learn how to move forward, because you can never get those moments back. Only thing you can do is try to be the best you going forward. Man, I think I'm going to give myself an offering. It's been good tonight. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And so instead of being bitter, you got to learn how to be better. That's the goal. You got to learn how to be better. You know, you go to therapy to try to be better. You go to the doctor to try to get better. You come to church to try to get better. You practice, if you will, to try to get better. We've got it twisted. We stay locked in bitterness, but bitterness never helps anybody. But you got to learn how to change your mindset about how can I get better through this, through my good, through my bad. That's why I love that song so much by Moss. He loved me through my good. He loved me through my bad. He wouldn't erase my future because of my past. I'm so glad he loved me through my good and through my bad. Man, ain't that all right? Or that other song, I've had some good days. Y'all know that song? I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary days and sleepless nights. Y'all know that song. But when I look around, y'all know the rest of it, and think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days, so I won't complain. And that's the key. If you understand, man, if I focus on more of my good days than my bad days, I'm going to be all right. So stop. I don't want to tell you what to do. I just want to encourage you to understand this. Life is too short to be bitter. over things you cannot change. Yeah. So live life. Don't let life live you. You live your life. Somebody ought to text that, write it in the comments section, holler at somebody, say, you live life. Don't let life live you. Because life is meant to be lived out loud with love, laughter, and people. It really is with people. I'm out of here. I'm out of here, man. If this word tonight has added value to your life, do me a favor. Share it with somebody. Tag and text and tell somebody. I really would appreciate it if you did that. It goes a long way. It helps your boy do what we need to be doing in these spaces, right? This is just one pillar of what we do, but we are thankful and grateful for Wade's Word of the Day, and we hope that you are thankful and grateful for Wade's Word of the Day as well. So, hey, if this word has blessed you, go ahead and hit that stars button. We would appreciate it if you do that. Every time you hit the stars button, it helps us, to do what we do and do it a little bit better. Be all right. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and go out on this one. We'll start it with it. We'll go ahead and end with it. Hey.
Be all right, be all right. Life is strange, full of pain. Joy and happiness is all the same. But you have to reclaim.
I gotta get out of here, man. I love y'all so much. Y'all know what it is. Wade's Word of the Day.
Stop tripping off what people say. Don't you know it's gonna be a brighter day, brighter day, brighter day, brighter day. Lift your hands. Do it, y'all. Come on, better, 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 better. Better days are coming. Better days are coming. Better, 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 better.
Yeah, better days are coming. Love y'all so much.